One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Authors Reality Show. I know it's not the name of the show. I've just decided that's what I'm calling it. I love that idea. Well, I'm doing that mostly because I put up Writer's Reality, and people went, "How do you write reality?" And I was like, I'm not going to keep answering this question 100 times. So I'm calling it Author's Reality. Although I think the inventor of the show is going to say something else about it. That's not the name she gave it. So Brandy, can you tell us what the actual name of the show is and how it got started?
Certainly can. I can tell you it's called Writing Reality. At least it is on my YouTube channel. And yes, 9 years ago, this started with a vision for doing 40 writers over 40 days to finish, polish, and pitch their books to publishers who would then vote Shark Tank style for the rights to publish. Now, 9 years later, we have stripped that concept down. We had 4 writers competing over 4 weeks for one publishing contract. And here we are, week 4. We are down to 2 authors, and that's where we're picking up right now.
So this is dun 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 dun. I wanted to do the Jaws thing, but then I was like, copyright infringement much?
Yeah, can't do that.
So anyway, it would have been a bad Jaws anyway. No one would have noticed. We are down to our finalist week. We have our last 2 contestants with us, and without any further ado, I think we should meet the brave souls that are putting their works out there to be judged. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose to write this particular project that you're pitching to us, to the publishers today, and what you've thought of your journey thus far? Dr. Mike? Muted.
Sorry. I know you picked me because Lisa's sick, but geez, it's really unfair. I thought this would be a fun project. I have written now, I have 5 novels that have been written and published and are out on the streets. But I write on a whim and I write on whatever I feel like writing. So sometimes I can write an entire book in a couple of months, maybe polished and done. And I had never actually written anything on demand. And I know I had a hard time with that in high school. And it turns out it's a lifelong experience.
What is the work that you're presenting to the judges tonight?
It was based on the first week, which you Brandy and the ladies both suggested that I have some sort of an idea to pitch. Well, on demand, it means on demand. So I made something up on the spot, and I didn't hate the idea. And the first 15,000 words or so wrote themselves based on the idea. And they are what has slowly but surely, I've been giving little dribs and drabs to the judges. And so far I've gotten a few nods, and they seem to like the direction that it's taking. And so I am trying to thwart my angst at on-demand writing. It's been a long time since the Catholic nuns made sure that I could write on demand. And so hopefully we're moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. And next we have Lisa. Can you just tell us what book you're pitching tonight and maybe 2 things you've learned so far?
I'm pitching a young adult coming of age thriller about a 17-year-old girl who's about to embark on her journey into adulthood and to college, and she gets sucked into this conspiracy that changes her life and several other people's lives and transforms her. and informs the next kind of stage of her life. I was grateful to have been invited to participate in this game and this game here. And I didn't really ask any upfront questions, and I had no idea what to expect. And it's been such a rare and precious experience, and I've just learned so much. I've been to writing conferences, and you have pitch sessions with like one agent at a time, but having your writing read and critiqued by actual publishers and several at one time, where else would that ever happen? I mean, it's so helpful to understand the potential marketability of my creative ideas and my writing craft and to come away with actionable feedback about how to improve. That's the whole point of it all, right?
Thank you, Lisa. I was not expecting that long of an answer.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that is great. I wanted you to give me 2 sentences max. I remember what COVID was like. I'm editing that part out. Anyway, so Brandy, I think I remember to send you the challenge for this week. If I did not,
I believe that the challenge this week is that they submitted 3 paragraphs of their writing, and it's going to be read aloud, and then they're going to explain why they selected those particular paragraphs.
So contestants, you now have a full 10 minutes to explain why you chose these 3 paragraphs and why you wish to be published with this one publishing contract. All right, 10 minutes on the clock, everyone. And while our writers go off to write, let's go ahead and meet the judges that are figuring out who wins tonight. And Brandy, I'm going to let you do all the introducing of the judges tonight because I have things to do behind the scenes. And I feel like you know them by now.
Well, let's hope I know them, at least a little bit. So we have Kim Davis, and she is with Madville Publishing. So I'm going to introduce Kim first.
Hi, that's me. I'm in Denton, Texas, where Brandy and I have discovered she also is in Denton, Texas. I mean, how silly. But we're a 5-year-old company. We publish 25 or so books a year, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. And we specialize in sort of gritty realism. Our poets tend to be Appalachian, and they write about poverty a lot.
That is fabulous, actually.
Follow-up questions on the interview. What books do you think that people should really look at from your house this week? And what are you expecting from these explanations that they're giving?
Well, marketability. I love that. I love the fact that that's the thing you're finishing with, because that's the thing that I finish with when I'm looking at a manuscript. It's sort of like, okay, I love the story, but will anybody buy it? And I'm fascinated to hear what all the other judges have to say, because we're always comparing notes with each other. What's working for you? What's working for you? Well, I don't know. This week from our house, the book that is taking off is called Passport Stamps, and it's a memoir by a war correspondent who worked for years for NPR. And it's nonfiction. And it's really, really good. And it's just gone nuts. Of course, he's a journalist. He's been doing a fabulous job of promoting himself. Take notes, everybody. So that's my book this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Now, Stephanie, we will turn the mic over to you. Stephanie is with Red Penguin Books. So, Stephanie Larkin.
Thanks so much. Thanks. I'm delighted to be here. Red Penguin Books has been around for about 5-6 years. I think Kim and I both entered around the same time, and delighted to be here on the show. We publish fiction, nonfiction, children's business books, memoirs, and the books that we've published recently that I'd like you to be reading is our Launchpad series. We have a Launchpad series of books all about Launchpad guide to writing, guide to publishing, and guide to marketing. So they are books by authors for authors.
Very nice. And what are you looking for in tonight's segment from the authors?
Rick, I've been following these two authors for the last 4 weeks now, and I'm excited to hear their 3 paragraphs they've chosen, because each week I get to hear a little more uncovered of these books. So I am hoping that there's something new to hear, but these two have been rising to the top every week, so I'm looking forward to hearing the excerpts.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. All right, next up is KMA. Welcome, KMA. You have...
Thanks. Yeah. So I founded and I'm the publisher of Yes, Yes Books. We've been around for about 11 years now. And in terms of what to look at from Yes, Yes, it's interesting. And especially with the topic tonight being marketability, it's so hard to know what's going to be marketable. It's so hard to know what catches fire, what doesn't. We've got a title that came out a few months ago. Yeah, I can't even remember. My God, I said with COVID on, the calendar is a mystery to me. But came out fairly recently, called As She Appears by Shelley Wong, and that's really taken off beautifully. It's a debut poetry collection, and we had the good fortune of it. It was longlisted for the National Book Award, and it also won the Lambda Literary Award for lesbian poetry, and it was taking off anyway, which is interesting. But the award nods don't hurt. I'm not sure how much they help, weirdly, but they don't hurt for sure. And then in terms of just very recently released, I think a book that has some good possibility of doing that marketability thing is Bone Language by Jamaica Baldwin. And that's just a couple months old, and it has to do with cancer, being a cancer survivor, also relationship between mother and daughter, also navigating racism in this culture, and that looks like it's marching through. And but my goodness, you never know. So I'm very interested to see what the authors have identified as 3 paragraphs that could be effectively voiced and also could demonstrate the marketability of their book. I'm interested in that, in the choices they made, and then looking forward to hearing what they offer.
That's fantastic. All right. Next up, we have Deborah Franklin Publishing. Easy for me to say. Let's
well,
try that
hello,
again.
guys. I know, right? It's that Franklin that gets you every time. Well, I am the baby of the bunch. I have been publishing now for 3 whole years, and I'm like so excited about it. It's been scary, but we've been tackling it. Yes, thank you, Kim. We have published now, I think we are right at about maybe 10 books, and that's over the course of 3 years. So I don't think that's too bad. Ain't too bad for us not knowing what the ham sandwich we doing. So the genres that we normally work with, we are a Christian-based company, so we mainly work with authors that are in the religious specter, but we don't stay there. So we do business marketplace, in the marketplace for Christian women and that are in the marketplace, and we do poetry, and we do some nonfiction, and now we're getting ready to slide now into some fiction. So we're getting ready to drop our first 2 fiction books. I'm so excited about that. The 2 books that I think that are really red hot fire right now is Amplify Your Voice in the Market, Amplify Your Superpower in the Marketplace. So it's talking about how women have to have a superpower. So what is your superpower that's helping you propel your business? So it's for people that are in business to help motivate them, as well as seeing that, hey, maybe that gift that I thought was dormant or silly, I can still make money on it. And the other one is one from one of our international authors from Kenya. And it's Changed My Story, Oh Lord, by Bishop Dixon Omakusi. And that particular book is dealing with prayer, and how God can change your story by just your prayer life and being consistent in what you're doing. So those are our 2 hot things. Now, what I will be looking for, as always, because my background is in PR and advertising, is that Can I go out and say what you're telling me and somebody wants to know more? Can I take a sound bite and really be able to do something with that? Can I go onto one of my favorite sites and create a flyer for you and I don't even know what the book is? You know what I'm saying? Like the whole gist of it. Can I be able to wrap this up in a little pretty package and do something? So that's for me. I'm looking for the creativity, or yeah, that's a good word. I won't make up words for you tonight. I'll just leave it with the creative and the sellability of it. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Where do I get that shirt, Deborah?
Oh, this is okay. So story behind the shirt is that I'm also I used to teach in PR and advertising. So for our kids, I told them they all got these shirts that said don't come back without the story. So if they went out, they couldn't come back to class unless they had a story. I didn't care where they got the story from, what they had to do. So yeah, so if you would like one of these shirts, just holler at your girl.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I totally love that.
Nice. All right. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Where is Winona?
I'm right here.
Awesome.
Every time you say my name, I show up. Wait, trying to get that beehive under control, but I show up. Anyway. Okay, cool. That's not important. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you guys, everyone, for all the judges being here tonight. And for our contestants, that is time. And for the first time ever, it has literally been 10 minutes, not over, not under, but 10 on the nose. So welcome back, our contestants, to the studio. Now it's time, since our contestants haven't heard anything that our judges are looking for, we're going to give you one more moment to look over those last 3 paragraphs to explain why you chose this and why you should be the one awarded the contract, while you can listen to the guest judges' introductions. We're going to start off with Nicole, and I'm not even going to try that last name. Nicole has a BFA in screenwriting from Chapman University. Nicole's knowledge of story, writing, and the film and TV industry uniquely equips her in her role as the packaging and sales department creative executive. Nicole reviews, develops, and submits clients' feature projects while also coordinating film events, festival planning, and marketing. She is part of Ramel Law as a creative assistant for packaging and sales since 2019. And she's also had an internship at Valhalla Entertainment, Color Force, and Skybound Entertainment. Nicole, if your bio missed something about you, would you like to tell us about that? And can you tell us what you look for when you hear a storyline? You're like, that's the one I'm going to try to package. What do you look for?
I'm not sure if my bio necessarily missed anything, but like as mentioned, I went to school for screenwriting, so I'm able to like look at stories from that kind of screenwriter point of view, and not just necessarily like a business executive point of view. I'd say for when I'm like looking at stories, or like especially looking at like pitches to determine whether it's something to worth spend my time reading a whole script on, is if I can get a sense of the tone of the story just by reading the pitch and having an understanding of like what kind of genre or tone, or like what the writer's voice essentially is through the pitch or whatever treatment or anything they've submitted to me. Just be able to get an idea of that and how it's unique and how it sticks out from anything else I'm reading or understanding, and just be able to, yeah, because if I'm able to like understand that through the pitch and everything, it'll be easier to make sure other people understand.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next guest judge is Barri Evans. Barri Evans has a decade of experience in the industry. She helps writers elevate their craft and advance their career. She was the president of production for Deborah Hill. Barri has developed, packaged, and sold projects to Warner's Universal, Disney, Nickelodeon, New Line, and HBO. She is known for her keen eye for up-and-coming talent and spotting engaging ideas that become success. Currently, Barri is a contributing senior editor for Script Mag and a contributor to Writer's Digest. It looks like Barri can give us a little of both sides, the writer world and the screenwriting world, as well as Barri, is there anything we missed in your bio? And what are you specifically looking for tonight in those 3 paragraphs being read?
Well, first of all, I'm an admitted storyaholic, which is why I went bananas over that t-shirt. I love story, and I work with story and feel very passionately about it in all formats and genres. So in terms of producing and in terms of as a consultant, I work in fiction, I work in nonfiction. I've set up articles in 48 hours that I've read. So I look for, in general, a story that grabs me. What I would be looking for, I'm always looking for a hooky idea. I'm always looking for engaging characters that make me want to go with them. And I'm generally very drawn to very character-driven stories, no matter what genre they're in. What I'm going to be looking for in the 3 paragraphs would be, because it's just 3 paragraphs, there might just be enough to barely tickle our interest in terms of story. I'm going to be looking at what I call focused writing, really purposeful, where I sense that the writer is completely in control and I can relax because I know that they know what they're doing and every choice is deliberate. I'm looking for writing that is visceral. I love visceral. I want to be scared. I want to be moved. I want to be engaged. I want to be surprised. I'm looking for writing that makes me feel. And then I'm looking for writing that has a distinctive voice, which is, in my mind, the single highest compliment a writer can receive. So that's what I would say. Thank you so much.
That is, okay, what you're looking for is moving me. I want a better story from my own self the next time. I'm like, the next time I sit down, I'm like, I need to be full about my storytelling. I have no like hopes that it'll ever become a movie, but I'm gonna try it just for trying sake. All right, our next person is Thomas Carter Rochester. Thomas Carter Rochester is an award-winning filmmaker who began his acting journey with improv comedy in college. He made his feature film debut in 2022's Corsicana, directed by Isaiah Washington. His most recent projects include The Walker, The Feature, Home Policy, The Last Hit. Thomas Carter Rochester also created and directed Toilet Paper Jesus during the quarantine, and it won Best Film at the Quarantine Chronicles Film Challenge and Best Comedic Short at the I hope I get this right, Quarantini Monthly Film Festival. He has also directed Lotus for the 48-hour film challenge in Orlando, Florida. Thomas, I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything in that. No, I'm joking. If I did miss anything, please let us know. And then tell us what you're looking for in these 3 paragraphs to see how you would connect to it as an actor.
Well, first off, as a fan, I want to be entertained. I'm really bad at reading, but I'm great at listening. So I listen to copious amounts of audiobooks. So I'm really excited that I was included on the audiobook narration version. So my dyslexic eyes don't have to get me in trouble. But as a character, I'm looking for, I don't want to say 3 dimensions because that's generic, but I really am looking for 4 dimensions. Can it be brought into the real world? Can it be timeless? Can it be, and time is the 4th dimension, in case anyone is wondering here. So seeing how it relates to now versus relates to any other time periods. That's really what I'm looking for, but it all starts with being entertained first. That's what usually gets me excited as an actor. I'm like, oh, I'm entertained reading this script, dyslexically reading this script. And so it's fun going from there to creating the character in a collaborative effort. But if the character is written beautifully, I don't really have to collaborate other than make sure I'm not doing it wrong.
Thank you so much. All right, our last but definitely not least, because they are the celebrity of the literary world. I firmly believe this. We have a literary agent with us tonight, Andy Ross. Andy Ross opened his literary agency in 2008, and prior to that, he was the owner of a bookstore in Berkeley for 30 years. So he knows a bit about storytelling. And yeah, I am missing a piece of your bio, so you're going to have to fill the rest in, Danny. Can you also tell us what you look for to make sure that a book is viable for you to try to give to editors to sell to the publisher?
Well, for me, voice is everything. And every agent I know and every editor I know pretty much says the same thing, which is they can tell if you have voice on the first paragraph. They can't tell you if the book's going to work, but they can see it. And if you've got, if you've got the ability to make it work. All that being said, it's a really emotional experience. Fiction is, and I always tell people if I don't cry, I don't buy. So what I'm looking for is that book where I'm reading the last 6 letters at 3 a.m, THEEND, and I'm crying like a baby. And that has happened a couple of times. And if that doesn't happen, then I probably will pass on it because fiction is very hard to sell. But I like it. I teach classes in fiction. I did a workshop just recently in a country manor in Provence. And it's my job is a lot of fun. That's all.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure to meet our guest judges tonight. I look forward to all they have to say about the marketability of these works. And I know we only have 3 short works to do. And I'd like to apologize to our audience because if you go and you keep listening, you're like, I thought on the program it said Joe Sands. Yes, audiobook narrator and voice actress Joe Sands was supposed to read tonight, but she has been delayed due to travel. So unfortunately, you're stuck with the voice of Winona Marie. And I normally read poetry. So we shall see. And if you hear clinking in the middle, it's because I'm drinking water, trying to calm my voice, trying to calm my vocal cords. So I can do some justice to these 3 paragraphs. Brandy, can you pick which contestants we'll be hearing from tonight first?
Let's go with Lisa first, since we started with Dr. Mike.
All righty. These are Lisa Toll's 3 paragraphs. Our house in the Mission had a secret, an illegal basement, a rarefied space underground with a window that peeked out onto Lexington, between the magnolia leaves in our front yard. I knew now. This was my path forward. Out of the spotlight and instead seeking clandestine spaces like this, from which to watch the tangled war of lows and highs, predators and saviors, while feeling my way to the right side of the truth. My reality check with Jeffrey Dade had left my chest heavy and my mind dark. Taking a tally at what I'd lost and gained in the span of one summer, I wondered how this past was supposed to be traveled. There had to be better ways of monitoring these monsters, checks and balances. But if the last 3 months were a glimpse of adulthood, I'd be better off locked in my room. I don't know what Jeffrey told you exactly, the man said, but this is an opportunity of vital importance to influence some of the most significant levers that balance power across the globe. Do you realize the position you're in? You, Thea Riggs, you have the power to change the world. Really? I felt sickened by the display. The way you people are changing the world? Listen to me carefully. I want to tell you a story. Oh, you like stories? I cut in. How about the story of a woman who you and your associates pretended to kill so no one would go looking for her, then experimented on her for your organ cloning business, where you sell the cloned versions for $1 million each? The man's face looked like chalk. Let me ask you something. What do you see when you look in the mirror? I honestly didn't know where the voice came from. This new version of me, a super badass version. I liked it. The man tried to recover. His forehead was sweating. I see a problem solver, he said, squirming in his chair. A revolutionary. What about you, Miss Riggs? What do you see in your mirror? The same. I dropped to the rattan chair by the window and crossed my legs, maybe to anchor myself to a moment I'd been avoiding for so long. The pages were empty, but 2 3x5 pictures dropped to my lap. Rudy and me at Laura Beach, and another of us curled up on Tata's lap. My composure surprised me as I held them in my fingers, remembering Rudy's joy and the demons he hid from us all. I set down the pictures and emptied something heavy from the folded white pages. A jade pendant, a fishing rope on black leather, twine, crudely knotted on the end. Rudy had worn this all his life. He was wearing it in both of these pictures. Before I knew what happened, I'd crumpled into a heap on the white carpet of Tata's room, sobs convulsing out of me from all the unchecked anguish of the past 2 months. I stayed there like that, coiled in a fetal position, face pressed into the shag rug, knowing somehow Rudy was just a few feet away. Okay. Lisa, would you like to explain?
Well, Nona, that was great. I have to say that was great.
Thank you. Lisa, would you like to explain why you chose these 3 paragraphs to represent your marketability of your book tonight?
Sure. Well, I wanted to continue the story I've been telling the judges about this book. So at first I gave them an outline of the overall shape of the story, whose story it is, Thea, what happens to her, what she cares about, what becomes her quest, and how the plot elements got resolved. Then the next episode was an opportunity to give more detail, more nuance, the motivations behind behavior and decisions. They could understand her journey a bit more. Next, I gave some details of the shadow organization, the syndicate, behind these events and their nefarious agenda, the uncomfortable place Thea found herself in, and what the truth really means to her personally, to her family, and her future. And what these paragraphs represent tonight is the completion of the conflicts with a view of the new Thea who will emerge after the final page and as a result of these conflicts and completion.
Well, judges, it's that time. Brandy, would you like to select our first judge to give feedback?
I would. Tonight we're going to start with KMA Sullivan.
I got to tell you that I was so drawn in. I mean, you've seen me now a few times. I usually have very specific things to say, and I'm writing notes down and da da da. I don't know, the story and the way, well known of the way you read it, I was just sucked right in. I don't think I have any other things I can add. I was in the moment, I was in the story, and I was just enjoying, which is what I'm always after when I'm reading. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Winona.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we are going to take it and listen to feedback from Deborah Franklin.
Well, I have, again, it took all the words, KMA, as always, when you go first, because I was like, I literally made sure I closed my eyes. I was like, I hope they don't think I'm asleep, but I wanted to, or praying. So I wasn't doing either one. I was really listening. I was listening because I wanted to hear, or basically I wanted to see if I could hear. Oh, wait, let me see how I can say this. I wanted to see if I could see what I was hearing. I got it out, y'all. And it was really cool to be able to get the visuals because I wanted to, because again, I'm a visual person. So when I hear something, I see it automatically. So I was like, oh, that could be a good little flyer here or a little nugget there to, the coming soon, save the date kind of situation. That's what I'm trying to see, trying to hear if I could see that. So yeah, I really like the way the flow went. And Winona did an all right job reading.
All righty. Next up, we will go with Miss Stephanie Larkin.
Thank you. And Deborah, I'm with you. I didn't want to close my eyes either. I could see it all happening. Lisa, I just want to really thank you for your thoughtfulness in what you've presented each week, because I love getting like little snippets. I feel like I'm seeing, and in next week's episode, here's what's going to happen, kind of a thing. And that's really been nice to be able to see the progression going on. But yes, I'm getting sucked in. I'm getting sucked into your story, and I really, really want to know what's going on with this character next. I really do want to tune in next week. And for me, that's a biggie with the book is I want to tune in next week. I want to turn the pages. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie, for that feedback. Let's go with Kim Davis. Let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. I missed week 1, so I missed that crucial outline, which would have helped me a lot, I think. But I thank you very much for your the way you've put it together, Lisa, and given us, as KMA, who just said that? Stephanie just said, it helps a lot to see these little windows into the manuscript and to get this larger picture. I'm glad to know something about Thea's motivations, and your explanation at the end was really helpful. I don't quite understand. These 3 paragraphs are from 3 different places, or is this a continual section? They're from 3 different paragraphs. Okay, yep. 3 different places. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, it was, and thank you, Winona. Yeah. I like the story. I mean, I'm there. Definitely. I'll tell you more when we finish, I think, is what I want to say.
All right. Now we're going to go to our guest judges. And I think we'll start with Andy tonight, since he's new to our little group here. Andy, what feedback would you have?
Well, I can tell, Lisa, that you have talent as a writer, and you had a really natural voice. There was a lot of emotion coming through. But, you know, I kind of walked into the middle of Act 2, and I couldn't follow it because I don't know the arc of the story. If you'd written your first 3 paragraphs, I would probably have a sense of where the story's going. Or if you did a good job in the first 3 paragraphs, I could see a lot. But as it was, I just didn't know how these characters have been developed, so I can't give you an informed analysis of what you did, other than that it was very natural. There was emotion. You have talent.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, Barri, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you. So, Lisa, I loved that the first paragraph that you chose was like, there's a secret. And that right away kind of grabbed my interest and drew me in. And that's always something I'm looking for a story. I decided, is it going to draw me in and make me want to know what's next? And I thought that was really an excellent choice. I was really blown away in, I don't know, the middle of the second paragraph and the distinctiveness and of what was essentially dialogue. If the last, I tried to write it down, I'm sure I didn't get it right, but if the last 3 months were any indication, I'd rather be locked in my room. And I'm like, wow, that's distinctive dialogue. That's a voice, that's a perspective. That's making me think that there's a big story here and I want to know more. I did have a hard time because I'm just now beginning to, hear anything about this story and getting the sense of the evil corporation and the evil cloning. And that for me is always a bit concerning because it's how does it become truly distinctive in an arena where we see so many, evil corporations. So it was a little hard for me to make the transition, but then in the last part, the emotion that I want, you really had a command of the language and of the visuals and a very cinematic feel to leave me on. So I was impressed that way.
Thank you.
And Nicole, let's hear from you.
Yes, I mean, similarly to Andy and Barri, since it's like my first time hearing anything about it, it was initially a little hard for me to follow along and like realize that they were coming from 3 different sections of your story. But just like listening along to it, I really loved the flow, the words and the language you chose. Like it had a good rhythm and pace to it. Like I never felt too stilted, or I never was like thrown out of the world of the story. I got a really good sense of what the tone over all of it was. And I feel like you managed to hit different like high and low points throughout the story. So it gave like a good encapsulation. So yeah, based off of just knowing these 3 paragraphs, I found it really interesting. But yeah, it was a little hard for me to follow exactly what the story was, but I liked the writing of it.
Thank you.
And last but hardly least, let's hear from Thomas.
Definitely least. I guess I fourth everything they've said about not realizing it was 3 paragraphs from 3 different locations, which makes my first bullet point of I wasn't sure where we were physically tossed out. So that's awesome. I was very entertained throughout the whole way, the whole reading. The imagery is very evocative. I'm able to picture the scene and picture the magnolias, and then picture I assumed it was a very dingy office space with the mirrored villain where it was, what do you see in the mirror? And it's like, I see this. Yeah, well, I see the same. Beautiful work of the villain trope of being a mirrored opposition to ourselves. And I really enjoyed the dialogue between the two, as well as the internal dialogue of Theo. Is that the name?
Mm-hmm.
Go Thomas, go Brain. And I really enjoyed how it just sucked me in. And I love a good conspiracy, so that was my favorite part. I love a good cloning story.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you to all of the judges and the guest judges for your inputs. Try to remember all of that in your head, because after this paragraph and the explanation, we will be deliberating and going ahead and making that choice of who wins and who loses tonight, who is our finalist. Okay, so I'm assuming that Brandy doesn't have to tell me who the next contestant is, but I'm gonna give it to Brandy anyway. To like, next contestant is Brandy.
Yes, the next contestant, surprise, surprise, Dr. Mike.
So Dr.
We're
Mike,
looking forward to hearing from you. Unmute, please.
I hope I can do your work some justice here. Give me one more second. I was practicing, and you got all guys in here trying to make a lower bass voice. Just thanks for that trouble. Special Agent in Charge, SAC. Well, you're a real whiz kid, Quinn. Congratulations. Now you're closing cases that weren't even open. SAC Wilson rocked back in his desk chair and looked down at his chest at me. The bureau chief had taken the news about Robert Day's confession with skepticism and a wry smile. It's hard to close any case. So when we do, whether it's ours or not, and whether it was by accident or not, we toast and then get back to work. Good job, Quinn. Your instincts are good. It's time they paid off. There was going to be more. Once these formalities were out of the way, the SAC was just warming up for something else. What do you think he meant, Tom, about the trouble when Beach dies? I don't know. He said that the people that were already enemies, the gloves would come off. Think for a minute, Tom. There are 27 FBI files on this guy. They're all open, and that's just the FBI cases. This guy knows where every single body is buried. Harry Beach was the fixer, the cleaner-upper of messes. He kept his peace, and he had people on both sides of the aisle. Everybody trusted Harry Beach with their innermost secrets. You know why? Why? Because he kept them. I got that. But once he dies, it's like Bobby Day Day said, the library burns down. Nothing but ashes left. Secrets go when Harry goes. Wouldn't that be nice? It's something different than that. Dan Wilson rocked forward again with a grin. He reached forward and picked up the stapler from his desk. Gesturing with it, he said, Mr. Stapler here has a problem, not an easy problem, certainly an inconvenient one. He knows the solution he wants, but he doesn't know exactly how it's gonna get done. He's not that kind of guy. Setting the stapler down, he reached over and picked up the pencil cup next to his desk lamp. Mr. Pencil Cup has a specific skill set. He would be ideal to help Mr. Stapler difficulty, but alas, his loyalty and attention is focused in a different direction. He is not opposed to a little freelance work, but has difficulty making friends outside of his small circle. He reached into his shirt pocket and brought out a small butane lighter. Mr. Lighter here is a professional listener. He waved the lighter pack back and forth. He learns of Mr. Stapler's difficulty. And he's also well acquainted with Mr. Pencil's skill set. So Mr. Lighter facilitates a meeting, then a negotiation, and finally the inevitable conclusion, whatever that may be. Both participants are well satisfied. Mr. Stapler is relieved of his problem. Mr. Pencil Cup has a special payday without involving his current employer, who may or may not have approved his freelance activities. Both hope, but with a secret. And the keeper of that secret is Mr. Lighter. Both forever in his debt, both tethered to him by their mutual secrets. So then, sadly, Mr. Lighter passes away. He dropped the lighter back into his shirt pocket, and the leverage those secrets represented evaporates. All over the place, we'll look around and wonder, who knows what? Who remembers what? They'll be on uneven footing. They'll need new alliances, new friends, and a whole new batch of secrets to create. There's gonna be a lot of pushing and a lot of shoving. Believe me, they're already starting to consolidate in penetration. Just look at page 4 of the Tribune every morning. The jockeying for position is already underway. He rolled forward and put his elbows on the desktop. So far, so good, Tom. But I got a call from the MCC, Metropolitan Correctional Center. They're amputating Beach's leg in the morning. Something about his system shutting down or other. Anyway, no visiting tomorrow. He'll be in recovery most of the day. The time is getting shorter and shorter. You gotta up your game up. Take those files back to your desk. Study up on them some more. There's gotta be a way into this guy's good gracious. You gotta make a new friend. He rolled back in his chair and shook a cigarette out of the pack of on his desk. Before he hit it and lit it with Mr. Lighter, he added, and do it quick. Pretty soon, there's not going to be much of Harry Beach left.
All righty then. That was an excellent read, Will Nona, as always. Now, I am going to pick on
Dr.
Deborah.
Mike, would you like to do your explanation as to why you picked these paragraphs to represent your entire literary work?
Wow, this could, wow, Winona. You know, when you hear your own voice on a recording, it's like, I don't sound like that. But I gotta say, if I ever do audiobooks, I'm coming to you. That was really good, and I really appreciate it. I think you caught what I was trying to do there. To tell you the truth, why I picked this one, I have no idea. And you got me 3.5 weeks ago and said, hey, what would you do if you could write a book starting like now? And so that's what I've been doing, is writing a book starting like then. And I try to write with feeling. I try to write. I expect to feel something when I write it, because I expect the people that read it should feel the same thing. And so I write with feeling. And so I sent a couple of things in. First week, good. Second week, I got a couple of critiques from the judges that said, whoa, 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 whoa. That's that's a lot of feels. And so I can write with emotion. I can write slam bang, explosions, fireworks, stuff like that. It's great. You know, I've written 5 novels already, and the first 3 of them would have made a terrific made for TV movie because that's what every single one of the judges said. So I don't have any trouble writing them out in motion. But I found out that dialogue is really hard to write. If you're trying to write, because you're writing it, basically dialogue is 2 different heads that are talking back and forth, and both of the heads are usually not in the same place, so there wouldn't be a dialogue in the first place. So I thought, well, I've submitted the stuff that people go, whoa, 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 and they liked it, and so now let's see if they like dialogue.
Guess it's time for those judges and guest judges to have something to say about these 3 paragraphs and Mike's explanation of why he chose them.
All right. This time it will be Deborah Franklin first.
Now, I never said I like going first. I just said I didn't like coming after KMA. Now, let's get this together. Okay, so by day, I am an ELA teacher. So it was the personification for me. It was just being able to picture the cup and the pencil cup and the lighter and having this whole conversation. And then I'm thinking about this visual, like, okay, so if the lighter is holding the conversation, holding the secrets, what's gonna happen when they flick the fire? Is this when the secrets come out? So, you know, I'm like, I was really liking that whole thing of where it just kept me thinking, kept me guessing. So, and again, I was closing my eyes to get the visual, and that's what did it, because it made me question what was coming next, or what were these inanimate objects getting ready to do, or what was going to come out. And then I always say, being a writer, being an author, when it comes down to doing dialogue, we can legally be schizophrenic, and it's okay. We can hear voices and say, hey, what you say? What? No, I didn't say that. So yeah, I really did feel that. You know, I really wanted to hear what how all of this next conversation was going to unfold with these items. So that's it for me.
Right. Next up, we will pick on Kim. Let's hear from you.
Okay, yeah. I liked this selection, and again, I missed the outline, so I knew, but kind of had forgotten that we were dealing with a young detective who has to go and talk to this serial killer. So in your opening sentence, you did a lot by telling me why he got sent, why he got picked to go talk to this guy that's dying, this serial killer. He's in the hospital, he's dying, he's the secret keeper. You revealed how the story works, why it works, what's happening. So thank you very much. I think the choice was good because it gave me something I needed to understand what you're doing. And the dialogue felt well done. I mean, I think with dialogue, it's important to remember always that people don't speak in complete sentences. They interrupt each other and it's messy. And sometimes they're not paying attention or listening to each other at all. They're just talking, you know, and having different things going on. So that was good. But your selection, of course, your guy is telling a funny story with items on his desk, right? Or in his pocket. That was an interesting story. I'm not sure it quite worked. I didn't quite understand how the pencil and the lighter and the stuff worked together, but okay. I mean, I like the direction you took with it, and I like the guy telling the story. I believed him. I believed that he was a chief of police or whoever he is, captain, you know, with telling this story with items on his desk. And, you know, he's talking down to this young man that he wants to go and do this interview. Right. So that worked. Is that, what else?
No, that's fine. Thank you. All right, Stephanie, let's hear from you.
First off, I just want to commend Winona, because every week we have talked about what a great reader Dr. Mike is of his own work, and you did a wonderful job. I admit I was nervous because I've loved his own reading, but you really knocked it out of the park. So thank you so, so much. Loved a lot of things about the excerpt. I want to say one thing about the inanimate object story. I felt a little bit like I was trying to keep track of objects, and I've mentioned before that if I feel like I have to take notes, I'm kind of like, whoa, we need to tighten this up a little bit. I think I would have liked that whole story maybe a third shorter, because at some point I just kind of lost track of, was the stapler representing the cup or was the lighter so liked where the analogy was going, but I think I'd like that section a little bit shorter. The section before that, when there was a dialogue between, humans, supercharged, super emotional. So I really like where that was going, but just want to tighten up a little bit on the inanimate object scene. But another winner there, Dr. Mike, so thank you.
That's awesome feedback. Let's hear from KMA.
Yeah, thank you so much for that section of the story, Mike, and for the reading, Winona. I think for me, I remember being very impressed by the sample chapter from last week because of the voicing through dialogue. And I did not feel that this time. I enjoyed the possible, the kind of comedic element of the inanimate objects speaking and the possibilities there. But I did feel that the voices needed to be really pushed so that there would be some level of distinction between the inanimate objects in the way they were speaking. And there was a little bit there, but I think that needs to be really pushed for a scene like that to work. I did enjoy the emotional, kind of more the human exchanges at the outset, and then at the finish. One random, oh my gosh, random thing. I'd be really careful about that sentence regarding amputation because his system is shutting down for various not great reasons. I've got some close experience with a loved one and amputations, and an amputation is incredibly traumatic to the body. So the doctors, if the system is shutting down, amputations are unlikely to occur. But you can just switch kind of the way that sentence is said because of fear of, concern that it might be shutting down. We need to amputate for whatever reason. But if the system's in the middle of shutting down, there's going to be something else, I believe, that the doctors are going to choose because the amputation itself is so traumatic to the body. And the reason that I bring up that tiny little point is, I think, a point that Brandy made, which that Barri made, which was one of the things I look for, is the ability to let go, let the storyteller take me and let me unhook when I'm reading a story. And in order to do that, the weird little factual elements have got to be on the money, because if they're not, if you chances are you're going to have members of your reading audience who know a bunch about random little areas. The facts have got to be on the money, because if they're not, then that pops them out of the ride. And so that's why I spend time on that tiny little detail. But Mike, I have been enjoying your story very, very much. So thank you so much.
It's great. And now that we've heard from KMA, I believe it's time. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now you got my curiosity, KMA, and I'm gonna take 2 seconds. Is this true, Dr. Mike, about the amputation?
About the amputation, it depends.
And then that's where I'm getting back on subject. I just wanted to know, side note, because I'm in physical assistant school. Probably gonna be a question. on a test.
She has a really good point, which I would have, in order to explain it correctly, I would have to broaden that out and expand a little bit. When patient body systems start to shut down for different reasons, their vascular system abandons their lower extremities and they can become gangrenous, but the patient hasn't like gone too far yet, and so you don't want it to get into the bloodstreams or anything like that. So often they'll remove the limb if they think that the patient is got a chance of extending his life or increasing the quality of living.
Sorry about that, y'all. I'm sorry. My curiosity was, I was like, and I'm not Googling it tonight. I know that. Okay. Brandy, I'm sorry. Go back.
That's okay. It's good fact checking, right? I mean, you've got a doctor, so why not ask the doctor whether or not that would be an accurate procedure description? All right. So this time I'm going to start with Thomas.
Oh man. All right. Unexpected. I like it. This is timeless to me. Breaks that fourth dimension. It could be set now, in the future, in the 50s. It feels like it's the 50s, just the way that, I mean, it was probably the way when Winona was reading it, just that quick talk, jumpy dialogue, chippy dialogue is the word I was looking for. I really enjoyed the personification of the inanimate objects to explain the power that Harry Beach had. Because the whole way through, I'm like, all right, Harry Beach, I got a name that I can keep track of, other than Tom, for selfish reasons. And I really enjoyed how that it could have been shorter. I do agree, but when it landed at the end, I was like, okay, so he's able to do whatever he wants because he can burn the whole system down. And this is where my mind immediately went. It reminds me of Gotham City, how there's always one guy who knows all the secrets, and it just takes one thing to set him off, and he sets a match and he burns it all down and all the money's gone. Which I enjoyed. It also sounds like because he's dying, it's building towards a war, which is very intriguing. You love a good citywide war. And it really gives, I feel the dialogue really sets up who Harry Beach is, which is probably the most important thing now that I know that he's some kind of serial killer and very key to the plot. And I really enjoyed that. I was entertained. And like I said, that's my kind of go-to, my key there. And the voice between characters and the dynamic between them worked really well, I thought. Especially, it's like the way one character was written, I was like, well, obviously he's in charge because he's being a total dick for no reason. And then you had different characters pop in here and there with little bits of dialogue, and it's just like, well, I don't know, man. They could have all been the same character, but it sounded like they were slightly different, and I also didn't remember the names, so that's on me. But I enjoyed it. I had fun.
Great to know. All right, let's move on to Nicole.
Yeah, so I liked especially like where you started out, because right from the first line, I knew what kind of story we were in and like what the genre was. And even though there wasn't necessarily as much like scene description or setting as much as there was dialogue, I was still able to like envision where they were and who these people were. So I really liked being able to start right there and know immediately what this was about. I would say kind of along those like stapler storylines, I do think that could have been shortened a bit, because I was kind of waiting for the story to move on and to go to like the next chapter, the next beat. So I think some of the dialogue could be, condensed or cut back, or just really trimmed to like what's necessary for the reader to know, while still conveying all the important points. I think another thing was because it was very like dialogue heavy, the section we read, I also wasn't entirely sure what made this like different from like other crime detective type stories. So I was kind of looking a little bit for that, but otherwise it felt very like appropriate for the genre. I knew where I was able to like envision it all. So I liked that I was able to kind of have my feet on solid ground while listening to the 3 paragraphs.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, Andy, can't wait to hear from you.
Well, I liked it too, and I liked the first part. I like crime fiction, but you know, all of the stories in crime fiction are kind of more or less the same. And but so the difference is how you make the character work and his voice. My favorite crime writer is Lee Childs, and I have a kind of an exercise which I hand out where I take the first paragraph of his first novel and kind of analyze it word by word. And the reason it works is because of the voice of Reacher, which is compelling, unique, and he has sold millions of copies of books throughout the world. The first part of what you read, it seems like it could almost be kind of a noir novel, and I think it would be good to make it a little more noir, and to give is he a policeman or an FBI agent, to give him more of an edge, I think. The second part with the inanimate objects, it didn't quite work for me. I mean, it was clever, but I think it went on too long, and it's really ambitious. It's really difficult to have a compelling scene with, a pencil and a stapler and stuff like that. So I think it was tough. If it was short, I think it would be better. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure that it needs to be in there. But I liked it, and I'd like to read more.
Thank you, Andy. All right, and last but hardly least, let's talk to Barri. How did you feel about today?
Hey, so I have to admit that I think that those of us who are coming in late in the process are at a disadvantage, because we're really struggling to define, what it is and where we are. And I would just say that it would be so helpful if in the introductions or in the materials provided, just to have the title, the genre, and the log line, so that we were able to because here I'm going, is this a crime detective thing? Is this the hotshot young guy? He closes cases that aren't open, but there's a noir feel. But the inanimate, metaphor is a bit different in tone. And so if I had that overview coming in, I'd be able to get my feet on the ground more quickly rather than being left with some questions. I think it's very brave of you to really push with dialogue and to make this choice for that reason. And it's interesting because I think that the dialogue is uneven, that there are a few moments that are stiff, and then you turn right around with a moment that just bangs it with a nice, strong, a rhythmic feel, that you just were able to grab it. You just need to be able to grab it more of the time, more consistently. But I was excited by that. I'm intrigued by the what we're calling sort of the inanimate object section. But for me, first of all, I love it because you have three. I've been working on this article about the power of three. That you see it in comedy, you see it in religion, you see it in magic tricks, and I'm waiting for that boom, that reversal, that punch, that reveal that it builds up to. And I think you've sort of gotten consistent feedback about tightening it. Here's my suggestion. I really needed to understand the person delivering it and their tone, their undertone, their attitude. Were they talking down to your guy? Were they being sarcastic? Were they being ironic? And I wasn't entirely sure of how it was being delivered. And I think that regardless of somebody else performing it, I wanted to have something in the description, something in the gesture, something in what we were hearing about the person delivering it that was doing a little bit more to convey the tone, how he whipped the light or how he indicated things, for me would have underscored the tone and helped you hit home this object, and boom, this, which we've been building to. So I think those are my thoughts.
Well,
right.
everyone, we have
Yeah, go ahead.
we have come to the moment where we are picking our finalists. So judges, you have a full 5 minutes of deliberation. And in that time, please, in the chat, send me who you think did well and who you think has to go. In the meantime, while the judges deliberate, we're going to talk to our contestants real quick to talk about what they felt this process has done for them. Yay! Not like we haven't beat that horse to death, right? All right, judges, go deliberate. Contestants, we're going to start with Lisa. Lisa, how do you feel about this round? Are you nervous about the final being one of the finalists?
Yes, nervous, terrified, overwhelmed, just pick an emotion. I definitely feel that. I couldn't be more excited to be here and so honored to be sitting amongst y'all here. I mean, hearing what your backgrounds are and what you bring to the world of publishing and entertainment and all of the multiplicity of modalities of it. It's just such an honor to be here and to have my work seen and heard by you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. Oh, what will you do if you win? I'm sorry, Lisa, I wanted to ask you, what would you do if you win?
I haven't even allowed myself to entertain the thought of getting there yet, so no idea. But yeah, I'm very excited to be here, and we'll see.
All right,
Dr. Mike. Tell us what you think you'll do if you win, how you've enjoyed the process, what you would probably have changed, that sort of thing. You like to talk, so please take that time.
I have absolutely no idea what I would do if I won. I actually didn't think I should be here this week, let alone like last week. There's been some real talent displayed, and not the least of which is Lisa. But the truth is, I'm new to this whole game, and as you well know, it's only 5 years ago that I met you, Wilnona, and what a fateful experience that turned out to be. But until then, I had never even thought of publishing a book. It was you that talked me into it. And so I'm learning. And what did they say in Stranger in a Strange Land? I'm only an egg. And so I'm learning all of this. And the feedback tonight was incredible because it pushed on all the soft spots that I saw in the stuff that I had been writing, and really focused a light on some of the things that I can do better. And that has happened every single week since the very beginning. So win, lose, or draw, I'm better at this, and it's more fun because I'm better at it, and it's because of you folks right here and the judges. So that's all I can bring, and I don't think there can be a loser, but I'm up against some pretty stiff competition.
Lisa, you wanted to talk a bit about your market viability of your film. Please go tell us about your film viability of your book.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was going to be some of the questions that you sent us this week, Wilnona, were about why publishers should consider this book for the grand prize, the market viability, and in particular, the viability as a film project. Is now a good time to do that?
Yeah, I thought you were going to put that in your explanation as to why you chose those 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
Chosen, but go for it. I'll edit it and I'll put it right there with your explanation.
Okay.
I didn't do that either. So.
All right,
Sorry.
you two go for it. I'm still like counting votes over here anyway.
Okay. So using the market and existing readers of my standalone thrillers, I use social media and other methods to stay close to readers. And my research has shown that these readers are predominantly male, educated, technically savvy who love two things: fast-paced thrillers that involve some sort of cutting-edge technology and also corruption, nefarious global corporations and their representatives working against the common good to maintain power and financial superiority. The themes in this book are gaming, biotech, corruption, as well as diversity and coming of age. Some competitive advantages through Book Talk and other online reading communities. I'm seeing that fiction and especially thriller readers are really liking first-person point of view thrillers lately, which this is. So in terms of viability as a film project, I have a relatable hero. Thea is relatable because she's young and inexperienced. She's insecure, yet has formidable strength, and her mixed heritage and sexuality would help embrace wider audiences. The celebrity suggestion that I based the Thea Riggs character on the actor Madison Bailey from Outer Banks. It has a discernible 3-act structure: the dead body and the mention of the Dead Sevens game, the syndicate, and the takedown. I think it could be shot with a reasonable budget. It's mostly all over San Francisco and could maybe add 1 or 2 scenes representing the Marshall Islands, which my character is from, which I thought could be maybe filmed in Jamaica, which has low production costs, close proximity to Florida, available extras with prior experience from frequent productions on the island, and an exotic locale appeal and nearly year-round desirable weather. I got that from a couple sites, including locationshub.com. It could possibly be sequeled. It has 4-quadrant appeal with a demographic appealing to young men and women, as well as older men and women. Because I think movie fans are attracted to a relatable hero with an impossible challenge, corruption, obstacles, and justice. And then some merchandising possibilities. The Dead Sevens is the name of the game in this book, so maybe Dead Sevens themed merch, as well as Thea and Fergus. That's her best friend and investigation partner. Hope that wasn't too long. Thank you.
Nope, you did a great job. Okay, do I have everyone's votes over here? Everyone voted?
Did we get Dr. Mike's marketability?
Dr. Mike, would you like to speak on your marketability as to film?
No, I'm actually way too excited about the consequences of what you're about to tell me. So I'll just tell you that the marketability of it is this is the kind of noir story that's a detective story that's not a detective story by a hero that's an anti-hero, and the kind of dark life that they live when you step on both sides of the fence. And so these are the kinds of things that just trip everybody's trigger. Onward and upward.
All right, everyone, I believe we have a winner. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and ask the judges who they thought that did well. I'm going to start with whoever's on my screen first. And you know who's on my screen first? It's Andy Ross, the literary agent. So if these 2 books came into your office, that detective book and Lisa's suspense book, which one or would you be like, I'm taking that one to the editor, and why?
Well, I couldn't say, because what I do normally is read the first 10 pages. And I think, as I said, I can usually tell sometimes in the first paragraph whether I want to read the next paragraph. And typically, if I get to the end of 10 pages, which I frequently don't do, I'll ask for the rest of the manuscript, and then I'll keep reading. And sometimes I'll stop on page 11, and then sometimes it's the end of the book where I'm crying. So
which one gave you the feels?
What?
Which one gave you the feels?
I had to go with Lisa, and I liked them both. And it was difficult for both because, again, I normally read the first 10 pages, but I really think novels for me are ones that have emotion, and that the emotion really comes out. It's really more about the character than the plot. and characters with strong emotions are the ones that compel me. And I thought, even though I didn't exactly understand what Lisa's was doing, I could tell that they were intensely emotional. They had strong voices, and I decided to go with her. Now, I liked Mike's a lot because it had that kind of noir quality, which is, I think it has to have. And I wish it was developed more. I wish that voice was just grab me by the throat. And I think you can do that. It may take another draft or two.
Barri, you are the spinner of stories. You can see the potential in the stories. Who has the potential here tonight? Barri?
You're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I got booted out and came back, and I'm a bit flummoxed since then. I apologize. I'll start again. I think a lot of what Andy said was articulate. It was challenging to come in cold, but in terms of reacting to just what I had heard and what I had seen, I think Lisa's work feels more developed and more visceral to me. I think Mike's work has this lot of potential, and there's this a lot of excitement. And I think noir is very, very, very tricky genre. But I think there's a lot of potential there. And I think that in some, with, building a little bit more muscle and a little bit more confidence and consistency, it will be at the level that you're aspiring to.
Nicole, you hear pitches every day. What do you think of these stories if they came into your office and this is all you knew about them? What would you think? Well,
Yeah,
this is all you know about them.
Yeah, so I would echo what Andy and Barri said, like just purely based off of these 3 paragraphs that we've heard, I felt like I was able to get a better sense of like story and the voice from Lisa's selection. I was just able to have like a better, more holistic understanding of the different beats, even if I'm still not entirely sure what the story arc is. The overall kind of tone and feel of it was pretty clear. So I could.
Thank you. And Thomas, would you connect with any of these characters and be like, that's the one for me in a script? And why?
Yeah, the bad guy. Always the bad guy. It's always fun to be bad. You know what I'm saying? Put the fear in children. It's what we like to do. I forgot everything I said because you asked me that question. Or everything I was going to say. I would say that I'm actually of two minds of this. It's a tight race for me because I see things so visually, and when I hear or read, I don't read often, but when I listen to stories, I visualize it in camera movements, in like how it would look on a screen. So it was hard to picture the flow of how things would work in Lisa's, but it's a book, and I am far more a fan of the style of writing or the genre that she has kind of worked her way down for the book. And then for noir stuff, because I do not read noir or detective things, but I love watching them. And so like I'm really torn on that, but because it's book, I'm gonna have to go Lisa. And I would totally also love to play the dick captain in the detective story, because I could pull off that stapler pencil lighter situation, and I feel really confident that I would crush that, make it both funny and terrifying at the same time.
Okay, Thomas, honestly, when Joe canceled, I was trying to text you to ask you to please pull that off for us, because I was reading it and going, don't think so. Don't think I can do it.
You
Tom's
did great.
good.
You did great. You did great. I was driving, so I couldn't answer.
Okay, so never mind. It wouldn't have worked anyway. I was like, get a professional to do this. Okay, so now we're down to our 4 judges. Our 4 judges who have gone with us from the beginning, from the outline, or for Kim, who's gone with us for the last 2 weeks, but who knows more about the story than our guest judges tonight. Would any of you like to tell us why you chose who you chose and why? What that? Let's try that one more time. This is why I don't have a hosting job. what story you chose, which author you liked, and why. Please include the progression that you've seen.
I'll go first if you like. I mean, the others are really good. They'll go give you something I didn't think of. But okay, I'm thinking a couple of things here about this is a very difficult choice. First of all, we're comparing apples to oranges here. This is a thriller versus a YA novel. So, and both are very well done. What we've heard is well done. There's a solid story arc behind what I've heard now, but I didn't catch it until today. but I can see there's a story.
It's the point of the show,
right?
You're not supposed to catch it till today.
Right, but I'm looking at markets, okay, versus, okay, so if I were going to talk about which one to publish, I'm afraid I have to go with the YA because that's what's doing better right now. That's the age group that's doing better right now, I think, than the thriller market, but I could be wrong. You know, I write thrillers too, and it's a sad thing to have to say. But you know, I'm right there with you, Mike. I want to write those stories. I want to tell those stories, but that YA market is more interesting. That touch of something weird and unusual interests me more.
I love, can I say something?
Yes, please.
I love YA. And my favorite book, the book which I am most proud of, is a YA book. It was sort of a lesbian coming of age story, and it won the International Literacy Association Award. I'm very proud of it. Unfortunately, and this is so true of publishing, YA got overpublished, and it has become extremely difficult to sell YA. However,
okay.
It's also extremely difficult to sell crime novels, and coming up with something new is always a challenge. So, and I never get invited back because I always end up saying everything is difficult to get published. And
I tell you,
who wants to hear bad news?
No, that you're Andy, we could have a whole conversation. The industry is very skewed right now, and it's very difficult for everybody, absolutely everybody. Okay, that's what I have to say
here at all. But like for the Hollywood section, is it hard to be making movies? I mean, other than the writer's strike, obviously, is it hard to be developing? Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to make a movie. Obviously, everybody can't. So yeah, it's very hard. Like, even though there are certain genres like horror or thriller that you can do for a lower budget that sell more easily globally, it's still hard no matter what you're trying to write. But there are certain genres that are a little easier to like break into. But yeah, no, it's very difficult to get any interest or attention if you don't already have like a package together or something interesting about it that'll kind of get people's interest, whether that's IP or an actor or something like that. But yeah, it's very hard. Yeah.
Can I say one thing about that conversation about locations? Mike's would be cheaper to film. I see 2 locations in that. You could do it in 2 locations. That's all.
Now that you've said that, I'm thinking about footing the bill for Mike's now. Because my movie for Saturday just fell apart. So I have new money for a new movie. Anyway, okay, the other judges. Let's get one more judge and then we'll tell you who is the big winner.
Well, I loved both stories, and it's been really fascinating to be part of this process from the opening outline, or really more summary. And I mean, Mike completely hooked me on the summary for sure. And I also really loved the sample chapter from Mike. In the end, I did vote for Lisa as we kind of got to the finish. I think that Lisa's book is more formed. I think that she's thought it through, and she understands her audience very clearly, and that she's thought through a rather complex and very engaging story. And I think Mike, your story is marvelous, but it's more in its potential phase than its actuality. And you, I mean, you just started it, so of course, of course, that's where it would be. I am wondering, Andy, regarding the YA marketing. My understanding was that while YA is generally saturated, that there's a strange new offshoot of YA, which is older YA. I've forgotten the exact term,
New
but
adult.
it's something like
New adult.
Well,
New
new
adult.
adult is over.
and
It's over.
Okay.
There's younger is tween. I mean, there's so many little niches that it'll drive you
Right.
crazy. But for a while, everybody was talking about new adult. But what it mostly ended up being was stuff for college students that was kind of erotic. That was more erotic than you could do in
I
one.
see.
Now it's gone. It seems to have disappeared.
It's gone
And
already.
what they call new adult has become now what they call fiction.
I
So,
see.
Brandy, can you go ahead and tell us our winner for tonight?
The winner is, and I am very happy to announce this, Miss Lisa. You have done an excellent job over the last 4 weeks. You have worked really hard to put together your work, to present a comprehensive, cohesive idea, and develop it throughout these weeks. And that is our bonus and our benefit to be able to tell you that, yes, you are the one who wins.
Lisa, you will be winning a traditionally published contract, which will include your book cover, your editing, your distribution, and your media packages. This will be offered to you by Deborah Franklin Publishing. Your contract will be in the mail, your email, or your actual mail in a week or two. But before Miss Lisa accepts this or denies this, is there any other publisher out here who would be interested, not necessarily for publishing, but just interested in having a look-see at that novel?
Let me see the first 10 pages so I can actually figure out what's going on.
And Lisa, I would say
Can you
that
send it to my email, just the first 10 pages, and I'll give you some.
Okay, Andy's looking at, you got literary agent interest. There you go. KMA?
I would say that I would be, if it wasn't the case that I was just at the finish, we're just now working through our open reading period, and I literally have hundreds of manuscripts. In fact, it's over 1,000, and we're a tiny little press, which is hilarious. And that I'm reading with my small editing crew. If that wasn't the case, I would love to take a look at your book. But congratulations, and Deborah Franklin, yay you.
Stephanie or Kim, any interest in picking this up?
Certainly. I just wanted to comment, Lisa, I have loved following your story all of these weeks. In general, our fiction traditional wing focuses on series books. I know you do a lot of standalones, and this is intended as a standalone, whereas we generally book fiction authors for a 3-book commitment, just going with a different, kind of a marketing push. If you are interested in something like that, I've loved what I've seen over all these weeks, and please be in touch, because I love where you're going with that. But we really don't do standalones. Every publishing company is different, so that's kind of where we're at. But congratulations, Deborah Franklin Publishing. I think you have a winner on your hands. And Lisa, if you are interested in something like that, please do be in touch.
Thank you, Stephanie. I will. I do have one series. I have 2
I would
books.
like to say one thing before we get started.
Okay.
This is Kim. Would you like to make any offerings, say any encouragements, any interest?
It's not really our sort of book because of the market. We're not YA. We don't really do YA. We're leaning into some fantasy and trying to begin maybe a new imprint in that direction, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay. So Lisa, you have interest from Stephanie if you decide to do a series, and I know you have a series, so you could go with the series and just try to pursue that. Or you could take the Deborah Franklin Publishing. Would you want to say yes to either or no to both or whatever? It is now up to you, madam.
I would love to talk to both of them and kind of understand the intricacies of both contracts and what they're offering and you know, evaluate how I could bring back what they're expecting to. I mean, a contract is a back and forth. So yeah, I think they both sound wonderful. Deborah, thank you so much for making the offer for the actual contract. I'm so grateful, and I'm just terribly grateful to all of you for your time and care and expertise and analysis, and also to Mike, who's my good friend and fellow author at Indies United Publishing. And Mike, I think you're an amazing storyteller, and it's been such a privilege to be here with you.
Okay. So I believe, Lisa, you are thinking about it? Is that how we're leaving this one?
I'd like to see the actual contract, but yeah, I'm very interested in seeing Deborah's contract and talking to her about what she has in mind for it, and yeah, I'll be very honored to receive it. And then Stephanie,
if you want an agent's advice on the contract, I'm happy to read it for you.
Oh, good God.
Sorry, Deborah, I'm not gonna like run you over. No, I'll give you
a very good offer.
Look, don't be trying to come for the baby of the bunch.
Hey, listen, for me as an agent, any contract is a good contract.
Andy, thank you. I really appreciate that. My good friend is an entertainment lawyer too, and I always have her read all my contracts too.
Oh, okay.
But you know, I think there's a lot of business associated with these, you know, kind of high stakes decisions. And there's also a lot of heart that's involved in it. I mean, like, we all love story. That's why we're collectively here today. And Deborah, thank you for offering this from your heart and from your business.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're not going to forget about Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike, is there anything that you felt that you could have come in here and done a little bit stronger and maybe have knocked this out of the park?
I did knock it out of the park.
You did, sir. You really did.
I made it to the finals against the kind of competition that Lisa is. Come on. You know, I'm batting 345, and so I'm leading the National League right now. I feel great about this. I've learned so many things, and I discovered a new thing about myself. Writing for yourself is rewarding and nice, and it has the same monetary value as my PhD, which is 0. And oh, by the way, Andy,
right?
I also like Lee Child tremendously, and I have mostly signed copies of all of his work. But I just finished the back to school one, and I was so incredibly disappointed.
You know, he's gone downhill, but his
before we finish this discussion, I gotta finish the show.
Okay, fine. Anyway, it was redundant, and I didn't like it a bit.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. And thank you for liking what I did.
So before we go, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Flea Boutique, gift wrapped jewelry for you, 2 for $6. Yes, we have a very interesting sponsor. Thank you for them for sponsoring this entire thing. And we would like to remind you that, oh no, I'm just going to put the tagline at the end because I'm not even going to try it this week. Everyone, thank you and have a wonderful weekend. Look forward to hearing you guys in season 2.